I shared this out the other day. Harold Harding Hazza, who used to be a television news anchor in China.
Friend of ours.
Yep, friend of ours. He interviewed me for our Conquering Southern China documentary. He was in a very awkward position in China because he was part of state media. So, he took a lot of stances that I wouldn't agree with, being very pro CCP for a lot of things. But he did what he had to do, being in the position he was in. He's now since moved to Australia. And he's been sharing some insights, which he never would have been able to do when he was in China.
Yes.
And he released this the other day. And the reason I'm showing it is he brought it to my attention, but this is something that has been going around the Chinese internet, and it was very serious, actually. So Caixin, as we all know, a big news outlet from China, they released an article. Okay, so in a now deleted article from China's Caixin, the tragic case of Sun Renze in Xinjiang's Ili Kazakh Autonomous Prefecture was detailed. He was held in, what is that even, Chabuchar County Detention Center and allegedly subjected to a grueling 7-hour interrogation leading to his untimely death. So basically what happened was an official report came out from Caixin about this tragic event that happened with this guy, Sun, and he was arrested. And guess what he was arrested for? Can you guess?
Picking quarrels and causing trouble?
Yeah, exactly. And provoking trouble, which is this kind of catch-all law that China uses. When they don't like someone, they can arrest them and say he was picking quarrels and provoking trouble, right? So the guy was arrested and horrifically tortured, and they were electrocuting him, they were beating him, they were waterboarding him, all this kind of stuff, and he went into a coma and he died.
It's interesting that they put it on Caixin because that's like economic news, business news.
Yeah, well, they did a report, they got the police reports and everything, and they released it, right?
Oh, okay.
So, alleged interrogation method used on Sun Renze were harrowing. The report claims he endured waterboarding, electric shocks, and beatings with a deliberate attempt to have no visible marks while interrogators tried to fabricate evidence to hide their actions. Yeah, it was really awful. But this is a report that was released officially on Chinese state media, right?
Interesting.
According to Caixin,
that's rare.
Yeah, exactly. Ren Tingting, Renze's mother, tirelessly fought for justice for her son amid immense pressure. Her son, detained for allegedly causing trouble in 2018, never regained consciousness after the interrogation and passed away in November of that year. Okay, let's see what's coming up next. In a quiet ruling on November 8th, 2023, the whatever city court found 8 police officers guilty of causing his unintentional death, and they sentenced some of them. Very quiet ruling, right? So these are the screen caps from the original article. You can go look this up on Twitter if you're interested. But of course, this was quite a few days before it's broken news on mainstream sort of media here. But China censored police brutality report after death in custody. Now, the thing is, people like to talk about police brutality in countries like America and so on, but it is a huge problem in China. And the reason you don't hear about it, and the reason you might think that America is worse in this aspect than China, is because the news about it is not allowed.
Correct.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So when you don't hear about a problem, you don't know that it exists, right? It doesn't exist. Anyway, so the guy's picked up on bogus charges, beaten into a coma, and tortured into a coma, I should say. And then they tried to... They came up with the excuse that he choked while drinking water. He was drinking a glass of water and he choked and went into a coma.
Couldn't come up with anything better than that?
No.
Wow.
That was their excuse.
Wow.
The cops. Anyway, there was plenty of evidence to prove that, he was killed in this manner, which is pretty awful. But the fact that they went out to censor the crap out of it, it's completely censored, that even though it was an official report by official state media, it's now been completely scrubbed from the internet. And it brings up the question about other very similar things like this that happen all the time. And they always get swept under the rug. For instance, this Tibetan girl who died after being arrested by the Chinese police. And we've got links to these articles below. Oh, you didn't include the second part of that?
What are you talking about?
What happened to it? I put another, like the actual thing. I guess it...
That's what you sent me.
Okay, I must have messed up. Anyway... The gist of it is she got arrested and the police wouldn't let her parents talk to her for like a year or something. And then finally they admitted that she was dead and they wouldn't tell them why and they won't release the body to them and the usual kind of thing. Now, something that's kind of related, and this is kind of scary, is this past week, there was a video going, it's an older video, it's a couple of years old, of a suspect being brutally beaten.
Which we won't show you.
Yeah, of course not. We don't show that kind of stuff. But brutally beaten in Xinjiang, right? Mm-hmm. And the caption, whoever shared it, said the Chinese police beat, this Uyghur guy in Xinjiang. So,
remember, that's where the genocide is, Western
yes.
China.
And anyone who watches the video can tell it's Chinese police. It's a Chinese police car. Easy. We all know what they look like. Yeah. It's got a Chinese police car license plate. But here's the scary thing.
Okay.
Is that the Chinese state actors managed to use Twitter or X's community, what do you even call that? Community context posts.
Yeah. So the idea behind this is like, we want to promote freedom of speech. So if someone posts something, the community can get together and write context. Be like, no, actually, this is what happened.
Yes.
And that becomes the truth, right?
Now, unfortunately, the bad actors used this context thing, and this was, of course, during the whole Taiwan election thing, to say, the video description is purposefully misleading. The video displays members of Taiwanese police officers, not Chinese, brutally attacking a man in handcuffs.
So this is supposed to be what you're supposed to believe now.
Yes, because this is kind of like a fact check, right?
Yeah.
And it goes on to say, the Taiwanese officials are highlighted by the uniforms and license plates that are displayed in the video.
Oh my gosh, that's literally disinformation.
Absolutely.
That's a straight lie.
It's a complete lie. And the problem about this is that they game the system. They always game social media in such a way as to spread falsehoods like this. Because luckily in this case, enough people were like, what the F are you talking about? And they were saying like the community noticed a joke. And they took screen caps of the video of them beating this man. And they're like, this is a Chinese police car.
This is a Chinese police car.
There's the video of it. There's a real one. This is a Chinese police uniform. There's a video of it. This is the real one. This is what a Taiwanese police car looks like. It's completely different colors, different type of car. This is what a Chinese police uniform a Taiwanese police uniform looks like. Completely different, right? So it took a massive uprising of people to show that's what a Chinese police uniform looks like. This is what a Taiwanese police uniform looks like, and
the fact that even was there in the first place is shocking.
Yeah.
That makes me super worried about Elon's Twitter.
Well, the fact that the Chinese state actors can manipulate the system to mislead people like that. You think
that's the only case? I mean, they're doing this daily.
Yeah.
They have not cracked down on Chinese state actors. In fact, after Elon took over, it's gotten much worse.
Yeah, it has.
It's pretty obvious what's happening here. Let me remind you, on Twitter, they removed the government labels. They're supposed to tell you if someone's a Chinese government official posting propaganda. Before it told you.
Yeah.
It doesn't tell you anymore, guys.
Yeah.
That's pretty messed up.
So anyway, after a couple of days, and it took a couple of days of people en masse posting verifiable evidence that is a Chinese police car, that is a Chinese police license plate. Those are Chinese uniforms, not Taiwanese. But it took a lot.
Yes.
It took the entire Chinese dissident community, including big names like Ba Jiu and other big people in the Chinese dissident community to bombard this.
Yeah, like, what are you doing?
They had to bombard the crap out of this with real facts.
Yeah.
It finally changed.
Right.
Begrudgingly.
That's such a dumb, crazy thing to even try to confuse people with.
Yeah.
If you know China, how ridiculous that
But the fact that it was taken advantage like that means that we should all be on guard with this whole Twitter community post thing or whatever, this context thing.
I would be skeptical of using Twitter as a source for anything unless you personally can verify this stuff.
When you see those context things, now you have to question those, especially if it's regarding China.
Yeah, because state actors are using them.
Yeah. Don't forget that China has a massive arm of the government that goes out and does these things. They've got a lot of numbers to throw at it. They've got a lot of people. They've got an office full of 1,000 people to say, go create 10,000 fake accounts each and all go and say that that's Taiwan, not China. And it works.
Yep.
A lot of systems don't know how to beat that kind of algorithm. They don't know how to beat that.
And the thing is, this was a reluctant success story, but the thousands of posts that are not, not just with community posts, but like promoted Chinese propaganda that just goes to your front page.
Let me tell you that if you compare the metrics of the original, if we look at, we might even be able to see it here. Okay, give me a second. Let's see if it comes up here. Normally you can see how many views a thing got. Man, it had some stupid amount of views, like hundreds of thousands of views, right? When it said that it was Taiwanese people. So it got so many views and people believing that it's the Taiwanese police. When the context comes in later, when people start doing proof, the amount of views are way less.
Yeah. And, we're not going to have time for the rest of the stuff today. But what I will say is that to finish this off, you have to understand that when China does this stuff, we're not laughing. We're looking at this and be like, how could someone even? That's crazy, right? But they don't care if they even come back with the truth or if it's corrected or not. Because let's say 80% of people, no, let's say 90% of people will have seen the first post and walk away with a new opinion.
Yes.
They're not going to go back and be like, well, actually, that wasn't true. They're not going to fact checking. They're going to go to a website being like, is this really, I'm going to look into this journal. What journal posted this? You know what I mean?
Most foreign people would not be able to tell the difference between a Chinese...
You mean a non-Chinese person, yeah.
A Taiwanese police car and a Chinese police car, because, hey, there's Chinese characters on the license plate. They don't know. So a lot of people would have seen that and taken it as fact.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Whereas it's bullshit. That was mainland Chinese police beating that man presumably to death. Who knows? But it was a very terrible thing. And now a bunch of people out there think that it was the Taiwanese police, which is absolutely
That'll be
not
the
true.
prevailing opinion now.
Yes.
Which is nuts.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And they're gaming the system. And you know how the system works, right? Is when you put that up, people have to vote whether it was helpful or not.
Yes.
And that kind of solidifies its position there.
Yeah.
So think about it. All you need is people to, like, a bunch of people to put that post, and then like thousands of people to say it's helpful, and then the system will be like, oh, that must be legit.
Check the pills, Jeff.
Great.
Who says that?
My true love eats chicken feet.
My true love eats fish heads.
And though she puts things in her mouth that I would never touch.
Come on.
Yeah.
I'm like, what? Just you guys, huh? Can ya? You'd say, mom.
He looks like he eats crayons.
You did for
Can't do it.
DO-10-4 can't do it. This is
He says it. He said it can't do it.
this is definitely what you want, I assure.
This is definitely what you want, I assure.
You gotta understand, China.
Wow, that's a little too much for me.
Close my eyes, I can almost see it. When I take a breath, you fill up my lungs. And if my mind